Welcome to Debt Matters. You know, today, 38 businesses will close their doors forever.
Yeah, it's an incredibly tough reality.
It really is. And it's not because of a flawed product
No.
or a lack of consumer demand. It's simply because another company didn't pay their bill on time.
Right, exactly.
So today's focus for you listening is really looking at the mounting pressure of late payments on UK businesses. We're specifically looking at the Q1 2026 data update.
Yeah, because that daily closure rate, I mean, it's the stark reality behind the broader numbers we're seeing.
For sure. And the goal for our discussion today is unpacking these numbers. We need to understand why overdue invoices are piling up right now, who is really feeling the squeeze the most, and how early intervention is the absolute key to survival here.
I agree completely. We really have to start with the sheer volume of the problem, just to understand the landscape.
Right. So let's look at that. The data shows overdue invoices rose to 17.48 million in Q1 2026.
It's massive.
It is. That's a 3% increase from the exact same period last year.
And we really can't look at that 17.48 million as just some minor administrative backlog.
No, not at all.
That volume translates to 1.57 million businesses that are currently carrying overdue bills.
1.57 million.
Yeah, and we're seeing the fallout from that in the insolvency data. Insolvency-related cases hit 7,212.
Wow.
Now, that's a 9% rise from Q4 2025, though, it is slightly down from Q1 2025.
Still, that is a lot of businesses going under. I always try to visualize this. I like to compare business cash flow to the engine oil of a car.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Because a late invoice isn't just an administrative glitch. It's an actual drop in your oil pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
So if a few customers pay late, the warning light comes on. But if enough of them pay late, you lose that lubrication entirely.
And the metal just starts grinding.
Precisely. The engine completely seizes up. And once that happens, it's impossible to cover daily running costs or, rent or tax bills.
Game over.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. Why is the margin for error so incredibly thin right now? Why is this causing engines to seize today?
Well, it's because the baseline cost of keeping the lights on is just relentlessly high.
Right. Inflation.
Yeah, energy, fuel, wage bills, operating costs, they're all staying high. Historically, an SME might have had some cash reserves, to bridge a 30-day delay.
Where they could just borrow it cheaply.
Exactly. But they simply cannot afford to absorb those payment delays right now. They just don't have the buffer.
Right. The money going out is at a premium, but the money coming in is stalled.
Exactly. So they're getting squeezed on both sides.
Okay, so let's look under the hood a bit. If we're talking about engine trouble, let's see which specific parts of the UK economy are breaking down first.
Yeah, the geographical data is really telling here.
It is. The West Midlands actually leads with the highest number of overdue invoices. They're at 3.05 million, which is followed by Greater London at 2.91 million, and then Scotland with 2 million.
And if we look at the sectors...
Wait, okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Sure.
Why is the West Midlands outpacing a major financial hub like London in overdue invoices? That just seems counterintuitive to me.
Well, you have to look at the sector data alongside the geography.
Okay.
Construction is actually the most distressed sector right now. There were 11,159 insolvency cases there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Followed by wholesale and retail with 975, and then accommodation and food services at 923.
Right, so how does that explain the West Midlands?
Well, the high distress in sectors like construction and manufacturing really drives those regional numbers.
Because they have a stronger footprint outside of London.
Exactly. London is very heavily weighted toward financial and tech services, but the West Midlands is a huge hub for manufacturing and construction.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
And those specific industries naturally feature really long, complex supply chains.
Which makes them vulnerable.
Highly vulnerable to delays, yeah.
Right, because if you're in a long supply chain, one hiccup ruins everything. Which actually perfectly sets up this next point.
The domino effect.
Yes, the domino effect.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how a single late payment travels down the line, because the UK government figures on this are staggering.
They really are.
Late payments cost the UK economy £11 billion each year.
11 billion. Just let that sink in.
It's wild. And like we said at the start, it causes 38 businesses to close every single day.
Yeah. If one company delays paying a bill, then the next company delays paying its suppliers.
Yeah.
It just cascades.
I compare it to a traffic jam on the motorway.
Oh, yeah, the phantom traffic jams.
Exactly. One driver just taps their brakes a little bit, maybe they got distracted,
Right.
and the person behind them brakes a little harder out of caution, and
Oh.
then suddenly, 3 miles back, traffic has come to a complete standstill.
And the first driver is long gone.
Yes. They're driving at the speed limit, completely unaware. But meanwhile, those payment delays have rippled out to affect suppliers, landlords, staff, and lenders.
What's fascinating here is that a late payment isn't an isolated event. We tend to think of it as just an issue between two specific companies, but it's not.
It's a systemic issue.
Exactly. It's an economic friction point.
Yeah,
And it just steadily drains the vitality from the wider market.
because that capital is tied up in the gridlock?
Yes, instead of being invested in new equipment or hiring staff, businesses are just trying to survive the delay.
Okay, so now that we understand the mechanics of this traffic jam, let's talk about how businesses can actually clear the road.
The practical solutions.
Right, because the primary takeaway from the data is pretty clear. Late payment requires early action.
Absolutely. Prevention and early intervention are crucial.
Because time is the enemy here.
100%. The longer an invoice sits, the harder it is to recover.
So what are the attributes of really strong credit control?
Well, it starts with prompt invoicing.
Sounds basic, but yeah.
It is basic, but so many businesses fail there. You also need to send polite reminders before the due date.
Oh, before it's even late.
Yes. Customer communication is key. And you need a structured escalation process ready to go the moment they miss the date.
Right. Debt collection shouldn't just be viewed as a last resort.
No, it needs to be seen as a professional tool to protect your cash flow. It stops minor administrative issues from becoming business-threatening debts.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If you're an SME, how do you enforce strict payment terms without completely alienating your core customers? I mean, you don't want to ruin the relationship.
That is the most common fear I hear from business owners.
Right, because if you lose the client, you lose the revenue anyway.
But the truth is, fair, professional, and timely recovery action actually preserves relationships
Really? How so?
because it establishes clear boundaries and expectations.
Okay.
Think about it. If you let them pay late, resentment starts quietly building up in the background.
You start getting frustrated with them, but they don't even know it.
Exactly. And eventually you snap, and the relationship is ruined anyway. But if you communicate early and firmly, you make it a standard professional process.
You train them to respect your terms.
Exactly. Customers actually respect businesses that value their own services enough to expect timely payment.
That makes a lot of sense. So to wrap this up, the core message here is that taking credit control seriously and acting early is absolutely essential for survival in this climate.
It's the frontline defense for your business.
And for you listening, whether you run a business or work in credit control or honestly just participate in the wider economy, this matters to you.
It affects everyone.
It really does. The health of supply chain cash flow ultimately affects everyone's job security and cost of living.
Yeah. And, I want to leave everyone with one final thought based on the data.
Please do.
If 38 businesses are forced to close every single day simply because they are waiting to be paid money they rightfully owed, it raises an important question. Will we soon see new businesses completely abandon the traditional 30-day payment model in favor of upfront payments just to survive?
Wow. That would be a massive shift in how we do business. Something to definitely think about. Well, thank you for joining us today. And until next time, take care of your cash flow and take care of each other.